Good morning, Pioneers. My name is Connor Morrison.
My name is Justice Galvin. Welcome to The Grit.
It was a busy sports weekend last week, so let's get started with a recap. Last Friday, girls basketball lost to Upper Arlington 35-23 in an away OCC game. Also last Friday, boys basketball defeated Upper Arlington in a home OCC game 53-31.
On Saturday, the boys played Pickerington Central and dropped the first game of the season 59-56. Senior Dylan Joy had 21 points. Girls wrestling won the state dual regional, defeating Weststone 83-0 and Tays Valley 57-21 to make the state dual meet championship. 10 girls won both of their matches to pace the Pioneers, including freshman Kenzie Carter, who pushed a record to 25-0.
Boys wrestling competed at the Berlin Duels, defeating Hilliard-Davidson 54-28 in a non-league match. The boys dropped bouts to Berlin and Elira, but juniors Jacob Slack and Gavin Gaylor both went 3-0 on that day. Now let's get into some of our talking show. We've got a couple things. NFL honors were last night.
Yeah.
As a Browns fan, I liked a lot of the picks that they had.
Yeah, I got them all.
Browns won 4 awards.
Right here, just run down the list. We got quite a few to start off. We got Kevin Stefanski win Coach of the Year. I think you're happy about that for sure, Connor, as a Browns fan. I don't hate the pick. I don't hate it. I think that they couldn't have gone wrong. They could have gone with Dan Campbell, DeMarco Ryans from the Texans. Kevin Stefanski, those 3. I'm not particularly upset that Kevin Stefanski won it, and I don't think it was a terrible pick. So, I agree with it.
I think that his main competitor was probably DeMarco Ryan, just taking the Texans from the second worst team to a playoff team and a team that beat the Browns. But I just think that Kevin Stefanski was pretty deserving of it this year just because of the amount of injuries that the Browns faced and the fact that we were still able to make it to the playoff spot. Obviously, we didn't look too good in the playoffs, but still made it there, which is pretty important. So I like that pick.
Yeah, and the second of the 4 total awards that Browns players won, they completely stole the honors. The assistant coach of the year went to the Browns, assistant head coach, which no one really cares too much about that,
I wouldn't say all that, but...
it is what it is.
We were talking earlier on the show. You said that he wasn't deserving of it. You said, I think
if you're going by coordinators, I think what Mike McDonald did this season for the Ravens, built a great defense, and now look at him. Now he's the youngest head coach in the NFL, and I just think that, he led the best. I mean, the Browns and the Ravens are the 2 best defenses in the league.
Absolutely.
And I think that they both have a good case. Mike McDonald was probably a slightly better defense, but I don't know the exact name of the guy, but the Browns defensive coordinator was able to build with a bunch of injuries, and I think that's really important. But also, he had Myles Garrett and the Ravens didn't. But, it's to each their own. It just depends on your preference. So the other one, Comeback Player of the Year, this one was between either Baker Mayfield or Joe Flacco, and maybe Damar Hamlin in there. Damar Hamlin obviously dying on the field last year and going out. But he is only really known this year for the Bills doing a fake punt on 4th and 5, giving it to Damar Hamlin, and it did not work. So, I don't think he should have won it. I thought either Baker or Joe Flacco. I don't hate the Joe Flacco pick. I love the story of how he just was watching football one day and then he's sitting on the bench and playing football the next, and I just think it's a great story.
Yeah, and I honestly thought that Damar Hamlin was a lock for the Comeback Player of the Year award just because of, the storyline that he had as far as, risking his life and almost losing his life and then coming back and still being able to play football. Obviously, a lot of people's problem was that he isn't really the greatest player. He's not really on the field a lot. So I honestly was pretty surprised when Joe Flacco won it just because I had been expecting, from the get-go for Damar Hamlin to win it. So I like that pick. Obviously, like you said, the storyline of him being on the couch and then leading a team to the playoffs just a couple weeks later is a pretty good one. Baker also looked really good too. He also led his team to the playoffs and had debatably his best year of football so far in his career. So I think they couldn't have gone wrong with that pick.
I think if they'd done it after the playoffs, I think you probably get to Baker Mayfield because he led him in the second round. But, And the Offensive Player of the Year, this one was really heated, really close. It's between Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill. And I'm very glad they went with CMC here. Best player on the second best team in the NFL, regular season wise. And, he had almost 25 touchdowns, something crazy like that. Great pick. I don't think there's any discussion here. I think Tyreek Hill, if he had gotten it, or CeeDee Lamb, would have been terrible, but I think CMC was the right choice here.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I can really add on to that is, he scored a touchdown in, I think, almost every single game of the regular season except one. So, not really much else to say there. He's a machine for that San Francisco offense.
Yeah, and then the last Browns player that we get to talk about, the biggest award for the Browns that they won, and a pretty controversial one. There are a couple controversial ones. Honestly, they did a pretty good job overall, but I think this one I disagree with. Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett. I don't hate the pick. It's his first one ever. There's been years where I've been like, okay, he should have won it, so maybe it's not fair. I personally thought TJ Watt should have won it this year. I hate to say that because I hate the Steelers. We both do.
Yeah.
But TJ Watt was the best player and wheeled his team into the playoffs. And look what happened when he didn't play. They lost in the first round. But I don't hate the pick of Myles Garrett. It's just TJ Watt led him in every category statistically. And in my opinion, watching them both play, I think TJ Watt's a slightly better player. But, it's all up to opinion.
Well, I think the main argument that a lot of people have as far as TJ Watt versus Myles Garrett is stats. And TJ Watt had better stats in a lot of the categories over Myles Garrett. But the only problem that I have with that is that defensive players, it's not all about stats. There's other things that aren't on the stat sheet, like getting double teamed and creating pressure and all that stuff. So I think that Myles Garrett, taking the stats to the side, had a better, what's the word I'm looking for? He created more
disruptive.
He was more
offense.
disruptive. Yeah, that's the word I was looking
for. That's fair. It's up to, again, this is a hard one. And then we got two back-to-back Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. Both went to the Texans back-to-back. C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, great picks. I do not think that they messed that up. I thought Puka Nacua could have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm glad he didn't because I think the quarterback was more important.
I agree.
C.J. Stroud led his team into the second round of the playoffs too and looked like okay against the Ravens until the second half. So I think this was the right choice, and I don't think there's really any discussion. These two were great players all year long and looked to have great careers ahead of them.
Yeah, I don't think there's any discussion for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Will Anderson was obviously great. Obviously, a lot of people wanted Puka to win. He had a very historic rookie wide receiver season. But the thing is, C.J. Stroud led his team to the playoffs and was played like one of the best QBs in the league this year in his first year. So I think that, him going to the playoffs probably swayed votes a little bit to put it in his favor.
Yeah, and then the last one, finally, my Ravens won something after having one of the most disappointing ends to a season of all time, thanks to the referees and the Kansas City Chiefs. And, it was the MVP. Lamar Jackson went out there, got 49 of the 50 votes. One vote for some reason, just because he wanted to be different, voted for Josh Allen. You're not different. You're wrong. That's what you are. Because that end of the season for Lamar Jackson was special. All right, forget the Kansas City Chiefs and Taylor Swift, all that nonsense. We talk about them enough. Lamar Jackson, from the 49ers game, Dolphins game, to the Texans game, those three games stole the hearts of America. It was special. It didn't end up how it should have, obviously, because the NFL scriptwriters came in and ended that Cinderella run. But it was fun to watch nonetheless, and I'm glad he won his second MVP, and he is well on his way to becoming the greatest football player of all time.
Wow. So that's an interesting take there. You've got the greatest football player of all time. I don't know if I agree with that.
He's on the way. Tom Brady's still the best.
He's got a long way, I think. But yeah, I think he was very deserving of the MVP this year. There's not a whole lot more I can add on after your little spiel there. Let's talk about the Super Bowl just a little bit. I know it's not your favorite topic. It's a little sensitive for you.
No, it's not.
But I think that we'll just talk about who we're taking this year. As much as I really don't want to see it, I do think that the Chiefs will probably win. I think the 49ers have a good chance. It will definitely be a close game. But I just think that something about Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, he plays like one of the greatest QBs to ever walk onto the field. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, my final score prediction is I've got the score being 27-24. Travis Kelce catching a game-winning touchdown, running up to Taylor Swift, and proposing to her at the Super Bowl ring. That is my guess, and I will bleach my eyes after watching that.
who are posing with the Super Bowl ring. That'd be quite the sight to see.
Yeah, but I'm calling it. I saw on ESPN a couple times. Other guys said the same exact thing I just did. And, yeah, I agree with them, and that would be horrible. But, you know, the Chiefs are obvious. Patrick Mahomes is a great player.
Mm-hmm.
I as much as I hate the Chiefs right now, Patrick Mahomes is a special player. I hate to admit it. But, yeah, I do got the Chiefs winning. I agree with you. The 49ers are probably the better overall team, but I think Mahomes is just the better player, the best player on the field.
All right. Well, with all that being said, let's get into a quick recap of this week's sports. Starting off on Monday, gymnastics won first place with over 138 team points. Multiple girls placed all around.
On Tuesday, boys basketball crushed the Olentangy Braves 69-44. They are now 18-1 in their season. However, the girls basketball unfortunately lost to Mansfield Senior 53-38. On Wednesday, boys wrestling won their OCC senior night match against Hilliard Bradley 39-30. Dennis Cepeda, Zeller Loin, Joseph LaRosa, and Jason Burt had all pins for the Pioneers.
That's all for our show this week. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, I'm Connor Morrison.
And I'm Joseph Cullivan. Make sure to support your New Year's in action this week. See y'all next Friday, and roll New Year's.